Hello students, hope you are doing well today. I wanted to take a moment and go through with you the testing rules for our 1323 exam. Now, these testing rules were the fall 2020 testing rules. The contents are what is the basic premise of these rules should remain intact, but we are trying to update these rules to shorten the length of this testing acknowledgement so that students will have an understanding of what is expected of them when they test. So I want to go through this because for me, all of these rules still apply. When I see you taking your exam, you should be abiding by them. Okay, so note that no matter where you take your exam, you will need a copy of these rules signed and dated to turn in. Okay, and whenever I have those available to you from the course coordinator, I will provide them to you. And so, let's go on. It says the CIS 1323 testing acknowledgement. Students in the CIS 1323 class must print out, thoroughly read, sign, date, and present appropriate documents to testing proctors prior to beginning their exam. No matter if you're an examinee, ATSD testing center, or on campus, these rules all remain the same. Students that are taking their exam in person in the McCoy CIS computer labs or at ATSD testing academic students with disabilities are to turn in a physical copy of the first page and last section of this document upon entering the lab. Students taking their exam on an examinee must show a signed and dated copy of the document to the examinee proctor. The signature and date must be visible on their camera so that the proctor can clearly see it, and the date must be on or before the date of their test. So you will see and you'll legibly print your name, hereby referred to as a student, acknowledge and understand the following regarding my CIS 1323 exam. So notice that you need to legibly print your name, and it should be the same as shown on your Texas State ID. Okay. Time management. So we note that all exams are timed, and it is my responsibility, right, you as a student's responsibility, to know how much time is remaining for the exam. The proctors will not call out how much time is remaining for you, the student. Okay? You need to be aware all the time of how much time you have left. Okay? Proctors will not sit there and say, especially on examinee, they will not sit there and say, you have 5 minutes left, you have 3 minutes left, you have 1 minute left. They will not say that. They are not specifically told not to. Alright? So you have to make sure to know how much time you have left. As far as internet connection is concerned, you, the student, are responsible for the reliability of your internet connection outside of the CIS QM department computer labs. So that's the on-campus testing. You are aware that the course syllabus requires the use of hardwired broadband internet connection, and you understand that the hardwired broadband connections are typically faster and more stable than wireless internet connections. And any issue with your internet service, meaning any internet services utilized outside of the CIS computer lab, is not a valid reason for a request for a reset or a resubmission of the exam. You understand that that should your personal internet connection fail during the submission process or drop you from the examinee connection, this could result in adverse consequences for your file being accepted by the instructor and or scored by the system. As far as Your environment, you must be in a Windows 10 environment, so you are required to utilize appropriate applications for the exam in a Windows 10 environment. This includes virtual or parallel environments if you do not have a Windows computer with Windows 10 installed. So that means your parallels, if you're using them on your Mac, you cannot use your Mac environment. It doesn't matter because you couldn't do access on your Mac environment anyway. This also means that all your applications solely open in the Windows 10 environment. And it is your responsibility to ensure prior to the exam that any possible type of required file, including but not limited to Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Access, these are text files, .txt files, and picture files, open solely in the Windows 10 environment. We have an announcement that goes through how to stop files opening in your Mac environment. You need to go back and read through your announcements to find that. Okay. Software requirements. So you are required to ensure that your personal software is the appropriate updated version of Windows 10, Microsoft Office downloaded to your computer, not the Office Online that is provided when you go through your email. You can sign in and use Office products in there. Don't want to use those because they do not have the same functionality. You will not be able to do everything you need to do. And you also need to use Google Chrome. That these are fully functional, meaning you perform all required skills necessary to complete the project, and the product is licensed. We also have how to check for Microsoft updates. And so you just basically type into your search bar down here, check for updates, select the check for update system setting, follow the on-screen prompts for your computer. Okay. Downloading and saving the starter file. You, the student, are to enable editing of your starter file after downloading, and then immediately after. You should save the file to the desktop or documents folder on your computer in an appropriate manner recommended by your instructor. In this case, what I recommend is you save it with a unique file name. This is the first thing you do. You enable editing and save it with a unique file name to the desktop or documents. Okay? Should the project also include resource files, and the resource files are contained in a zip folder, you are responsible for extracting the files contained in the zip folder so that they are available for you to utilize on the project where instructed. I have a video about how to extract files from zip folders. You need to go watch just in case you have that issue on this exam. It will be on certain exams where you have to extract files from zip folders. So you need to know how to do that. And you are wholly responsible for knowing where your files are located on the computer for utilization and the submission process. When you submit your projects, you are only submitting the starter files. Any test that we have, you will only submit the starter file, meaning for this exam, the Access database that you were provided for a starter file, that is your database. That's the one you turn in. That's the one that you will rename a unique name after you've enabled editing. Okay. Performing work on the starter file. You, the student, will follow all instructions and ensure that you perform the appropriate work in the appropriate file. Should you perform work in the incorrect file, your grade can be adversely affected. So that means if you're downloading multiple starter files and you accidentally select the wrong one and start working in it, or if you have files zipped up and you work in them, and then in the zip file, I should say a file from a zip folder, you will not be able to keep any of the work that you did if it's in a zip folder and you try to work on it. So all that work will be for naught. You need to make sure that all your files are extracted, that you know which file that you are supposed to be working in, and that you submit the correct file. All right. Submission process. It is recommended, it is the recommendation of your instructor to begin the submission process at least 3 minutes prior to the time expiring. Okay, this is to grant me ample time to locate, inspect, and submit my file prior to time expiring. This recommendation from your instructor is also used as a built-in mechanism to combat the possibility that SimNet session was timed out. Sometimes if you're away from SimNet too long, your sessions will time out, and so you'll have to log back in. And that requires you logging back into SimNet and then also re-entering in the password to the exam. Okay, so those things can take a little while. The more that you know, so the more aware you are of where your files are located, the better off you will be, the more likely you will succeed in this. One of the biggest reasons that students run out of time is because they attempt to submit their projects with less than a minute remaining, a minute or less remaining, and the project just times out. So it keeps on going because maybe their internet connection is slowed down a little bit, or the submission is taking a little bit longer than probable. So you should start the submission process at least 3 minutes. So it means 72 minutes of work, and at the 3 minute mark, I'm starting the submission process. All right. And as I said, it combats that SimNet was signed out, and you must log back in, and the proctor must re-enter the password for the exam. You acknowledge that should you not begin the submission process with a minimum of 3 minutes remaining in the exam, your instructor will not consider allowing a chance for resubmission of the exam file, project file. So I will not consider a resubmission if you do not start the project, the submission of the project within that by the 3 minute mark. So prior to submitting, here we go. If you, the student, are not able to finish all the project's instruction steps, you must go to the end of the instruction document and explicitly follow the instructions for preparing the project file for submission. So if you're on step 25 and there's 32 steps, you need to go to where it tells you to start preparing your document for submission, basically closing the file out and doing those things. All right, so you should do that beforehand and get your file ready for the submission process. Prior to submitting your document, the students should check the modification date and file size attributes in your file selector screen, and you should also right click on the identified submission file, select open, and perform a quick review of the file prior to submitting to ensure it is the appropriate file. So whenever you're in SimNet, okay, what will happen is whenever you go to submit your file, the file selector screen will come up, and it kind of looks like this. It's a little dialog box, and what you will do is you will right click on the file, and you will select open. Okay, do not double click or do not left click. We right click on the file, select open to do this. Okay, that way we can review the file quickly, just take a brief glance, make sure things look appropriate. Are all your tables and things inside of it? If they are, great. That should be your file for submission. If they aren't, well, then you need to find where your file is. Okay. And then make sure you close the file before submitting. Time expiring due to a file submission error. Should you, the student, begin the file submission process at least 3 minutes prior to time expiring, and you encounter a file submission error that you cannot resolve and time expires before you are able to upload the file, you, the student, will take a screenshot of the error. Screenshot must include the time and date. So the date and time must be set to Central Standard Time, like mine down here. Okay, and so I should be able to see that. For PC users, to take a screenshot on the PC, select the FN, that's a function key, and print screen key. Alright. At the same time, and the time and date for a Windows computer is located at the bottom right corner, just as I said, on the taskbar. Screenshot should be pasted in a Word document and sent to the instructor immediately. Mac users, to take a screenshot on Mac, select the Shift, Command, and 3 key at the same time. The time and date for the Mac is located at the top right-hand corner of the screen on the menu bar. Screenshot should be pasted in a Word document and sent to your instructor immediately. You, the student, will not reopen or continue to work on the file after the time expires. If the file's modification date and time are shown to be after the time the assessment is expired, it will be up to the determination of the student's instructor as to whether or not the student will be allowed to submit the project file. Do not mess with your file after this, okay? In fact, what should happen, you're supposed to delete all your files on there, on your computer after you get out. So what you actually should do is you should take it and they should make you, so if you're on Examity, they should make you take it all off. But what you need to do is you need to email me. Do not email me your file. I do not want your file. Okay, so do not email it to me. We will figure a way to, if I determine that you can submit your file for your reason was valid for a resubmission, then we will figure something out. Okay, so just do whatever needs to be done to satisfy the Examity requirements so you don't get red flagged, and then go and we'll figure something out from there. Okay, exam scheduling options. Okay, so you are aware that you must schedule your exam according to the timetable allowed by me. Your options are to take the exam are limited to Examity in person unless you have accommodations. So if you don't have accommodations, you can only take it on Examity or in person at the CIS QM Computer Labs in McCoy Hall. If you take it on Examity, you should not be around anyone. You cannot take an Examity exam in the McCoy Computer Lab. You have to be in a quiet space with nobody around. If people are around, they will possibly kick you out of your exam, and you will fail that because, well, you weren't supposed to be around people. So make sure you're in a quiet, secluded place where they cannot hear chatter. Otherwise, you will get red flagged, and that means you possibly could end up with a 0 on the exam. Okay. And you also understand that to take the exam, certain rules and stipulations are required. For Examity testing, you must have a government-issued ID, including but not limited to Texas State Student ID, driver's license, passport, and military ID. Have a reliable connection for your internet. Have a functioning built-in camera and microphone on your computer. Take the exam in a secluded area, not a computer lab or library. Be connected to a power source. You can use your ebooks. So for your exams, you can use your books. In fact, you were able, for us, in our class, let me see if I can find it. Oh, there it is. Let's go to this one. There we go. So, if you go to practice for exams not graded, there's an Access Capstone Level 3 lesson that you can use. Okay, use that. You'll be able to use that for your exam, and that should have every skill possible that was listed in the announcement that I put up yesterday. Okay, so you can use that on your exam, or you can use the library if if you want to. You can use a library, go to the Access book, and use these chapters. We only do chapters 1 through 5, and I don't think anything from chapter 5 is on the exam. There may be one thing, but if it's very limited, it's not very much at all. Okay, so most of your stuff will stay from chapter 4. Me personally, I would use this if I had to use the book, but if you use the book and you use it often, you're just cheating yourself because you're using up the time that you could be doing to do it. Do not rely on the book. It is not a good thing to do in this exam environment. Okay, relying on the book will cost you a lot of points. Okay, so going back. All right. So I just want to reiterate: you must have a functioning built-in camera and microphone on your computer. That you are not allowed to use help menus, and you cannot leave your seat, not have phones, headphones, or earbuds. You cannot have dual monitors. You must have a clear area surrounding you. You have a webcam, speakers, and microphone remain on during the duration of the exam. You have to be seen by the proctor for the duration of the exam. And you can only use Google Chrome browser as well as a Windows 10 environment. You cannot use your Mac environment, all right, for anything. You will be asked to open a blank Excel workbook and a blank Access database as instructed by the proctor. You will be asked to then close the workbook and the Access database after demonstrating the applications are installed on your computer. And then at the end, you will remove all files associated with the exam from your computer prior to ending the exam session. For the people that are doing this in person at McCoy Hall, right, so in 336, you'll come to 336. You must wear an administratively approved facial covering, so you have to have a mask on. If you don't wear an approved face covering, you will not be allowed to take the exam until you have obtained an approved mask. If you miss your time, so basically what that means is if you sign up for your exam and you get there, 5 minutes ahead of time, and it takes you 30 minutes to go back to your house and get a mask, or 30 minutes to find a mask, you're not going to be able to take it at the thing. You'll have to sign up for Examity at that point. You too should have a government ID, which includes but not limited to the Texas State student ID, driver's license, passport, military ID. You have to turn off your cell phone and give your ID and cell phone to the exam proctors. You can place all other belongings, including smartwatches and smart devices, at the front of the room. Grab a pair of gloves from the front of the room to wear, so we will have gloves for you to wear. You will have to allow the proctors to sign you in and assign you a seat. Raise your hand to alert the proctors that you are ready to begin the exam. You should only use the Google Chrome web browser as well. You should only use ebooks, no other resources, including help menus. Students with testing accommodations. For students with testing accommodations, these students should sign up to take the exam at the ATSD testing center at least 72 hours prior to the date they desire to take the exam. So you have to take it within our testing window. Our testing window is Monday through Friday, okay, on Examity. So I will allow you, students with accommodations, to take it Monday through Friday as well. And if you want to get, let's say you want to take it on actually you can't take it next Monday because you would have need to have been signed up, I think, on Wednesday, this past Wednesday. And then for Tuesday, you should have signed up Thursday. For Wednesday, you should have signed up for today. So that means next week, if you have accommodations and you need to test at the ATSD testing center, that you will only be able to test on Thursday or Friday of next week. Okay? Students with accommodations, if you don't take your exam at the ATSD testing center, will forfeit all accommodations granted to them from the Office of Disability Services. So basically what this means, you will still have your time, but we cannot provide you with certain things. So if you have other accommodations that you are provided with, you will not be granted them on at the CIS labs or on Examity. Okay, so we cannot ensure that you are accommodated with that way. Because of that, you will need, should you not schedule your exam there, you will need to you will need to send a email to me and copy ODS at texasstate.edu saying the following: I, your full name as shown on your Texas State ID, and forfeiting all accommodations granted to me from ODS for professor, insert my last name, exam running, and insert the date range of our exam. Should the students with accommodations not send this email to their students to me, and they test in CIS QM lab and test in our lab or on Examity, the student will automatically forfeit all testing accommodations granted to them without exception. Students with accommodations are subject to the rules of ATSD, and where rules are not specified, the student will be subject to the rules of all other students in the class. So wherever their rules are not specified, you'll be subject to our rules. Okay? So once again, that was the rules. At the end, we had you sign and date. So you had to return the last page and the first page. Now this is a lot of stuff, but you need to be aware of it before you can do that. So Examity students, again, doesn't matter if you're going to test on Examity or not, you need to sign up for Examity just in case you miss your time. Okay, just in case you miss your time or something comes up and you cannot make your time in person. Your only option at that point may be Examity, and you will have to schedule. And it can take a while to get your profile loaded. All right. So, with that being said, please go schedule your exams as soon as possible. And I look forward to seeing y'all next Monday. We will not have, so there will be, after Monday, I will not be online on Wednesday because I will be proctoring the exam. Okay, so I will be proctoring the exam on Wednesday in the lab. I will actually be up at the school on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week if you would like to come talk to me or need to come talk to me about anything. I will be there in the lab, McCoy 336, proctoring and doing what I need to do. Okay? All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a great weekend. I will catch y'all later.